Eutrophication is the process by which water bodies become degraded and eventually so contaminated with toxic cyanobacteria that the water is unusable for recreation, irrigation, or drinking. The term eutrophication comes from Greek and means well-nourished. So understanding eutrophication is about understanding the nutrient cycle and how the misappropriation of nutrients leads to toxic cyanobacteria becoming so well-nourished that they completely dominate the water body. It's important to understand that eutrophication is a systemic process. It affects the whole water body. You can't have eutrophication in one area of a lake only, and equally, you can't just treat or remediate one area of a lake either. Because eutrophication is systemic, it operates according to the laws of systems theory, which means that eutrophication is a multifaceted reorganization of a whole bio with many factors at play. This produces a plethora of symptoms, and these symptoms often show some correlation that people too easily confuse as causation. Because it's systems-based, there's feedback and interaction between the causative factors and the symptoms, making it much more complex than simple cause and effect. To understand the process, let's break it down into physical changes and biological changes. The main physical changes that occur as eutrophication takes place are firstly stratification of the water column, which manifests in two ways. The basic laws of physics tell us that warmer water is less dense than cold water. So warm water rises to the top and denser cold water sinks to the bottom. Oxygenated water is less dense than deoxygenated water. So oxygenated water rises to the top and denser deoxygenated water sinks to the bottom. Stratification or layering takes place in a eutrophic water body so that at the bottom you have dense, heavy, colder deoxygenated water. Because this water is denser and heavier, it's effectively locked in at the bottom of the water column by gravity, making it very difficult to reverse. Deoxygenation of the water has major consequences because deoxygenation causes what are called anaerobic conditions. Living organisms can be broken down into two types: aerobic ones that need oxygen and anaerobic ones that don't. Anaerobic conditions obviously favor anaerobes. Weeds, algae, and cyanobacteria are anaerobes, so this is good news for them. But fish need oxygen in the water to breathe, so it's bad news for fish. The third significant physical change that takes place is an accumulation of organic sediment in this anaerobic benthic zone at the bottom of the water column. This organic sediment is rich in nutrients, so any organisms that can exploit these conditions and access those nutrients will be well nourished in eutrophic conditions. Now let's look at the biological changes that take place. The first point to note is that eutrophic conditions are less favorable to oxygen breathers or animal life and more favorable for plant life, such as aquatic weeds, algae, and cyanobacteria that don't need oxygen. Floating aquatic weeds and algae can take up nutrients, most importantly nitrogen and phosphorus, that are dissolved in the water column. For rooted aquatic weeds, a nutrient-rich sediment provides a perfect rooting bed for them to flourish. But over time, it's the potentially toxic cyanobacteria or blue-green algae that best exploit eutrophication to their advantage. Nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus are taken up by aquatic weeds and algae during the summer months as they bloom and flourish. In winter, they die off and sink to the bottom and decompose. This decomposition makes the nutrients available again in the sediment for next year's summer blooms. In addition to this, you get other life forms dying off, leaves from trees and other organic inputs that add to the nutritious sediment. So recycling of nutrients occurs as positive feedback loops drive worsening algae blooms and then cyanobacteria blooms annually, as eutrophication itself is worsened by similar positive feedback loops. So biologically, what we see is conditions that favour nutrient appropriation in favour of life forms that we do not want in our water. Algae and toxic cyanobacteria are the ones that become well nourished in a eutrophic water body.